For generations, sports have been praised as the place where people set aside their differences, coming together in the rhythm of the game and the roar of the crowd. In the stands, the flags of once warring nations can fly side by side, and in that fleeting moment, humanity is reminded that the world still shares one common language, the language of joy and unity. But in today's world, the line between sports and politics is growing increasingly thin. When national security becomes the ultimate priority, even a stadium ticket can turn into a tool of political screening. We've grown used to hearing stories of sports healing wounds, like the image of two nations shaking hands after a match, or the moment when athletes from vastly different cultures share a smile of victory. And yet, history has shown us that sports cannot remain untouched by the tides of the times. From Olympic Games boycotted during the Cold War to athletes banned from competition due to political disputes. Every time politics interferes, the spirit of sports is tested and the faith of millions of fans begins to waver. Now, once again, the stadium is no longer a truly neutral ground. Immigration policies, security orders, and strategic calculations from Washington have started to seep into every seat, every bleacher. Fans no longer just need a ticket and a passport. They must also navigate invisible barriers erected by politics. And the big question arises, does the spirit of sports have the strength to push through, or will it be choked off right at the gate? To understand more clearly, we need to look at one of the most controversial policies in recent memory, the new executive order from President Donald Trump. A decision that seemed at first to be solely about borders, but in reality has forced the entire world of sports to rethink how it steps onto the field. Behind every football ticket, a flimsy piece of paper, it might seem, lies a grueling journey called the visa process. Since the pandemic, the U.S. consular system has been plagued with backlogs, with some places requiring a 9 or even 12-month wait just to get an interview appointment. And now, with the Trump administration's new executive order in effect, security screenings have grown even tighter, stretching wait times further. For fans, the excitement of immersing themselves in the atmosphere of the World Cup or the Olympics now comes hand in hand with months of weary waiting outside a consulate gate. A football match can be timed down to the second by FIFA, but a visa appointment can't simply be fast-tracked by hopeful anticipation. Fans are forced to plan more than a year in advance, and even then there's no guarantee the visa will arrive in time. Flights may be booked, hotels paid for, dreams imagined and shared around the family dinner table, only to vanish in an instant with a cold, impersonal update. Your application is still being processed. And even for those who do make it through, the cost of the journey turns the joy of sports into a high-stakes gamble. Behind these emotionless numbers are stories that tug at the heart. An elderly Moroccan couple who've never left their homeland spend 10 years saving up just for one chance to see their national team play on American soil. A group of young South Americans scraped together every cent to turn their World Cup trip into the adventure of a lifetime, now facing heartbreak as their consulate appointments are pushed beyond the end of the tournament. A freelance journalist from South Asia, burning with the dream of capturing the street-level spirit of football, sees everything grind to a halt at the visa interview stage. Personal dreams, precious memories waiting to be made, suddenly dissolve into quiet, unfulfilled spaces. And then, perhaps the most frightening part isn't just the missed dreams, it's the ripple effects that follow. Every unused ticket, every empty seat in the stands not only dulls the atmosphere, but also represents a massive economic loss. Hotels, restaurants, airlines all feel the impact of these invisible paper barriers. At this point, the visa story is no longer just about individual hardship. It has become a heavy economic burden on a global event. The World Cup and the Olympics have long since outgrown their roots as mere sporting events. They are massive money-making machines where every ticket sold, every hotel room filled, every plane that touches down feeds into an economic current worth tens of billions of dollars. From global telecom giants to the corner street food vendor, everyone looks to these sporting festivals as a once-in-a-lifetime golden season. But when seats in the stadium sit empty, that economic dream can quickly turn into a nightmare. For the 2026 World Cup alone, experts had projected more than 5 million international visitors flocking to the US, Canada, and Mexico. And they wouldn't just come for football. They would travel, shop, dine, and explore, turning each host city into a buzzing epicenter. But if entry policies block a significant portion of those fans at the border, that money flow will simply shift elsewhere. Canada and Mexico, co-hosts with open doors, will become the preferred destinations. Toronto, Vancouver, Mexico City, and Guadalajara will glow with crowds of fans, while many American cities face the risk of standing half empty during what was meant to be the biggest party in the world. The domino effect is inevitable. Hotels go half booked, restaurants lose foot traffic, airlines are forced to cancel or revise routes. Local businesses miss out on a rare windfall that could have changed their fortunes. Event insurance companies scramble to reassess their risk as no-show rates spike. An empty seat in the stadium may look like just a gap in the stands, but in truth, it's thousands of dollars lost, a missed chance to showcase a nation, and a disappointment for an entire supply chain that pinned its hopes on this global moment. What's more, these losses can't simply be measured in numbers. They leave a crack in the image of America, a country that has long sought to lead not just with hard power, but with soft power too. Sparse stadiums, quiet streets devoid of international tourists, these become symbolic images, broadcasting the message that the host nation has failed to live up to its promise of welcoming the world. And when those images spread, they don't just hurt the immediate economy, they chip away at long-term international trust. And here, another challenge emerges. How will global brands, the sponsors who invest billions into the World Cup and the Olympics, respond to this scenario? Because they're not just buying ad space, they're buying diversity. The roar of cheers in dozens of languages, the moments when the stadium becomes a mosaic of humanity. So who will dare to put their logo on an event if the message being sent is one of division rather than unity? Global sponsors don't pour billions of dollars into an event just to see their logos flash across empty fields or sparsely filled stands with little diversity. Brands like Coca-Cola, Visa, Adidas, Toyota, Samsung, and McDonald's invest in these spectacles because they expect to reflect a full, vibrant picture of the world, where fans from every continent sit shoulder to shoulder, singing in dozens of languages, and every cheer is a testament to global unity. But when tightened immigration policies keep out fans from Africa, South Asia, and the Middle East, the message the event sends becomes warped. Carefully crafted multicultural ad campaigns begin to feel hollow, even counterproductive, when the real-life images don't match the slogans brands are trying to promote. For corporations, the greatest risk isn't just financial, it's reputational. A brand might spend hundreds of millions to align itself with a slogan like "We Are One" or "For All the World," but a single photo of a monochromatic crowd stripped of the diversity those slogans promise can undo years of effort in seconds on social media. In the age of global communication, where a short video can go viral worldwide in a heartbeat, the gap between promise and reality can deal a crushing blow to brand credibility. The irony is that while the US faces mounting criticism, Canada and Mexico, its co-hosts, have quickly seized the moment. Their message is simple: our doors are open, come celebrate with us. And just like that, cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Mexico City become the heart of parallel festivals, drawing not only tourists, but also the kind of positive imagery and goodwill that places like Los Angeles or Dallas were meant to bask in. This is no longer just a sports story, it's a battle of national brands. And in this soft power showdown, the winner will be the one who shows the most openness. But beyond the numbers on sponsorship contracts and the grandeur of marketing campaigns, there is a quieter, deeper layer of impact: the effect on communities, on ordinary people who've been waiting for this global event to feel connected, to find pride, to share in something bigger than themselves. Because at its core, sports don't just belong on the world stage, they live in neighborhoods, in homes, in families. And when the roar of the crowd is split by invisible walls, the loss isn't just a missed marketing opportunity, it's a fraying of the very social fabric that sports are meant to strengthen. Sports are not just about goals or medals, they're a chance for communities to find joy together, a moment where those far from home can embrace one another laughing and crying as their national flag rises high on foreign soil. But with stricter immigration policies in place, the cheers that were meant to echo through the stands are now split and silenced. A Nigerian community in Houston can no longer bring their grandparents over to witness a historic moment for their national team. They're left with a live stream watch party, cheering through choked back emotions and swallowing the sting of exclusion. In Los Angeles, a Mexican-American family spends a year planning to fly relatives in from Guadalajara to support the team, only to be left with empty seats and a celebration cut painfully short. What's lost isn't just the physical presence of international fans, it's the cultural heartbeat that defines every World Cup and Olympic Games. The vibrant parades, the impromptu street performances, the community exchanges, all fade into the background when the faces of the world are missing. Local residents lose the chance to experience global diversity on their very own streets. Diaspora communities, who see these events as a rare opportunity to celebrate identity and reconnect with their roots, are now forced to watch from the sidelines. Sports have long been hailed as the people's ambassador, a space where ordinary individuals can rise above politics to find a shared voice. But when visa walls go up, that function is suffocated. Instead of bringing people together, sports now face the grim risk of becoming a mirror to division, a symbol of a fragmented world. And this leads us to a sharper, more uncomfortable question. Does sports truly have the power to transcend politics? Or in the end, are national laws and executive orders the final boundary, one that even the spirit of sport must bow to? This is where the legal lens must come into focus. To understand the real limits of the often repeated mantra, sports are apolitical. When debating whether sports can truly rise above politics, the legal answer often leans toward a harsh reality. Host agreements for events like the World Cup or the Olympics, while filled with binding clauses, can never override a host nation's immigration and national security laws. The United States, like any sovereign country, holds the absolute right to decide who may or may not cross its borders. In numerous legal precedents, U.S. courts have consistently sided with executive authority on matters of national security, treating it as a protected domain rarely challenged. This means that if an immigration order is issued in the name of national security, the legal avenues for sports organizations or international bodies to contest it are virtually non-existent. So, is there any path forward? Some experts suggest policy advocacy as the only viable option, pushing for temporary mechanisms like humanitarian visas, special corridors for ticket holders, or even limited visa waiver programs for certain groups of fans. But all of these solutions require political will, something difficult to achieve amid an intensely polarized U.S. political climate and an election season rife with division. As powerful as sports may be in stirring emotions and rallying global consensus, it must still bow to the unyielding forces of borders and the law. And yet history reminds us that sports have never been entirely separate from politics. They've been both victim and mirror of their time. From the 1980 Moscow Olympics boycott to the retaliatory boycott of the 1984 Los Angeles Games, history has shown us that politics can shape and even determine the fate of global sporting celebrations. And in those moments, we find hard-earned lessons that echo into today. The history of global sports is filled with milestones that prove it has never been fully detached from politics. The 1980 Moscow Olympics, boycotted by the US and dozens of Western nations in protest of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, turned what should have been a celebration of athletic unity into a cold diplomatic battlefield. 4 years later in Los Angeles, the Soviet Union and its socialist allies retaliated by collectively pulling out, leaving behind empty stands and the bitter memory that sport can become a hostage in the clash of ideologies. Medals were still awarded in those games, but their shine was tinged more with political symbolism than with the pure joy of victory. What's different today lies in who is affected. In the past, it was about national decisions. One team participated, another withdrew. But now it's the ordinary fans, those who simply want to lose themselves in the joy of sport, who have become the casualties. A visa wall is enough to block millions, turning what should have been moments of collective euphoria into personal disappointment. And that's a far more dangerous outcome because it undermines the very legitimacy of the event. Sports are marketed as open to the world, yet in practice they're erecting barriers. History has shown us that whenever sports are choked by politics, the host nation's image suffers deeply. So, as the US prepares to host the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympic Games, what lessons can or should be drawn? If the situation isn't handled with care and foresight, these grand celebrations may not shine as intended. Instead, they risk becoming stark symbols of division. And that is where the story of the future must begin, with dramatic, high-stakes questions hanging over the two biggest sporting events of the coming years. If the United States doesn't revise its immigration policies, the outlook for the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics is far from bright. Leaked internal documents have already revealed that emergency contingency plans are under discussion, including the possibility of relocating high-attendance matches involving restricted nationalities to Canada or Mexico. The idea is to avoid the optics of empty seats and the reputational damage they could inflict on the tournaments. But the price of such a move is a fractured experience. The World Cup, originally marketed as a triumphant symbol of three nations co-hosting in unity, could begin to feel, to fans around the globe, like a fragmented affair. The US may end up perceived as a half-host, a country standing outside the very celebration it was supposed to lead. In reality, if international fans are forced to choose, many will prioritize Canada or Mexico, where the gates are open, the processes are simpler, and the message of welcome is unmistakable. Toronto and Mexico City could become the true epicenters of the global football festival, while U.S. cities risk falling under critical comparison, condemned for the coldness of their policy stance. This wouldn't just be an economic loss, it would be a reputational rupture. A country that once called itself the land of dreams could become a place where even sports dreams feel out of reach. As for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics, the challenge is even more complex. Unlike the World Cup, which involves a few dozen matches, the Olympics span hundreds of events across multiple disciplines over several weeks, attracting millions of visitors. Managing entry logistics in a scenario where hundreds of athlete delegations, tens of thousands of journalists, and millions of spectators converge on a single country would be a monumental task. Without a clear and timely roadmap, the risk of logistical chaos looms large, from volunteer shortages to a black market surge in tickets and services. All of these scenarios lead to one unavoidable question. In what spirit will the U.S. step into its role as host? Will it be a nation capable of balancing security with openness? Or will it wall itself off, becoming a stranger at its own global celebration? The answer won't just shape the public image of these two major sporting events, it will define the message America sends to the world for the decade to come. An empty seat in the stadium may be silent, but sometimes that silence echoes louder than any cheer. It might represent the unfinished dream of a father who couldn't take his son to the match of a lifetime. It could be the heartbreak of a diaspora community eager to raise their voices in support of their homeland, only to be stopped at the consulate's gate. And it may be the quiet sorrow of millions of fans around the world, slowly realizing that even sports, once hailed as humanity's shared language, can be forced to bow before politics. For decades, sports have stood as a symbol of unity, a place where nations set aside their differences to share in joy. But just one visa barrier, one executive order, can turn that ideal into an invisible wall, separating people who were meant to come together. That's why the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics are more than just sporting events. They are a test of whether America can balance security with openness, whether a nation can protect its borders while still keeping its promise to say, our doors are open to the world. If it fails, the U.S. will face more than empty seats in its stadiums. It will face empty spaces in the hearts of fans. Because once trust is lost, it is painfully hard to earn back. But if it succeeds, America could prove that sports still hold the power to connect us, to rise above the cold calculations of politics. And that would be a message louder than any slogan. Dear friends, sports are our shared story, a story of belief, of dreams, of a deep longing to connect. And now I want to hear from you. Do you believe the US can find a balance between security and openness? Can the spirit of sports overcome political barriers? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's open this conversation together. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming deep dives. Your support and engagement are what inspire us to keep bringing you stories that matter, stories that go beyond the headlines and speak to the heart.